Okay.
All right, so this is one of my friends, and I wanted to get her chart because I read her chart um, a while ago. Like what? That was like
Mm,
in Christmas, a little bit before Christmas, right?
Christmas of like, not last year, but the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't this last Christmas.
Yeah, it was before. No, I think it was this last Christmas because we've only been
Was
here
it?
a year. Yeah, because we've only been here a year.
Wow.
2020 literally makes you feel
Really?
like it's been much longer. I know. So
Yes,
much
for
has
sure.
happened.
Wow, no
A
way. I
shame.
mean, I guess it's almost been like a whole year. It's only a few more months until Christmas.
Yeah.
It's only been a year? Not even? Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, 2020 is crazy.
Insane. Yeah. So I'm just going to start reading your chart, and then if you have any questions, let me know.
Cool.
But like your chart is like the best. So I love the fact that like you have your sun, your moon, Pluto, and Mercury in Scorpio.
Yeah.
And I actually forgot like that your sun is actually in the 12th house. And to have like your sun in the 12th house, to me, that's like saying that like you're the kind of person that you need your alone time. And it kind of helps me like understand you more because like I'm very extroverted, like wanting to be
Yeah.
around people. And like
Yeah.
that's something that's like really critical to you. Like if you don't have alone time every day, like you could start feeling like your energy is off, almost like you really need that alone time to recharge. And
Hmm.
there's also this aspect of like your father figure kind of like teaching you that in some way or another, having this um, this energy of make sure that you take time for yourself, and
Hmm.
really like tend to your inner world.
Yeah.
And then having a Scorpio rising, of course, is like, to me, it's super intense. And to have Pluto there. So you have your moon, Pluto, and Mercury all together in your first house of your first house is like your personality, your body, like, who you are intrinsically. And
Hmm.
having your moon there is like your mom, like pretty much like instilled in you to like protect yourself. You know what I mean? To
Oh,
like
yeah.
focus on yourself, but like also it's like it's your subconscious, like your moon is like that subconscious energy. So
Hmm.
intuitively, like you're always kind of like in that inner realm of like how am I feeling, what's going on with me, and Pluto is this planet of complete and total transformation, and to
Hmm.
have it in your first house means that like you're a transformative person, but not only like a transformative person, but like you could literally have like these internal transformations that nobody knows about, but like it's just secret and like private to you. And having Mercury there, it's like in the sign of Scorpio, like Scorpio and like Scorpio is like just like more of it to me, it's like a very sensual, dark, and kind of like I want to say like it's really, to me, it's a reflective sign. I've met a lot of people who have like Scorpio rising. Like I'm a Scorpio rising, and like one thing that I've realized is it makes us intensely sensitive.
Yeah,
Like
very much.
so sensitive. And
Yeah.
so for you, like having your moon there too, and like your Pluto and Mercury, it's like you're the type of person that could literally change your whole life in a second, and like
Yeah.
you would only tell like a select few people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would only let certain people know because
I
Scorpio,
have done that kind of.
huh?
I have done that kind of, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's this energy of like, Mercury is like, oh, what we like to talk about. And like Scorpio is like, mm, actually, like, let me just not talk about this because like I want to keep this for myself. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
more of this energy of like, you would probably be the person who like has like legit therapy sessions with yourself and like probably does it better than the therapist, And
Yeah.
it would be really hard to be your therapist,
I feel that. I've been through a few that I just
right?
like don't connect with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, so you have your Venus in the second house,
Hmm.
which to me is like blessings. Like this is kind of like having this Venus in the second house in the house of Sagittarius, right? So like the second house is all about like your values, your security, um, What else? Values, security. To me, like what this is like coming up intuitively is like for you, it's this like almost like you could really go anywhere and like have security and like beauty. So like I could, this to me is like, so Venus is a very like nurturing and like loving sign. And like in the sign of Sagittarius, like I get like only fan vibes or something, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
or like fans only vibes. Like, it's just this like, you know, like wanting to be free when it comes to like how you make money, but at the same time Venus being there, having some like sort of like beauty, having some sort of like, you know, like body and like some sort of like sensual
Mm-hmm.
aspect to it. And then with Sagittarius, it's like sensuality, like I don't know, I just get this feeling like sensuality to the extreme, like to the highest
Yeah.
extreme, you
Yeah.
know. And Venus can kind of like in this sign, to me it feels like more of a like seductress kind of energy. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I get like dominatrix vibes from this because like the Scorpio like is you
I feel
know.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have like this like dominatrix vibes, and like your north node is in this house too in Sagittarius. So you're like in your past life, you are actually like really powerfully like not only psychic but also powerfully like involved in helping other people like with their money, involved in that like, you know, occult,
Mm-hmm.
having like, you know, past lives of where you mastered helping other people through their unconscious, helping other people through like what they went through. So like therapist vibes, you know, like
Yeah. I feel that. That is so funny because I did recently get accepted into the radiography program, but it was kind of like a last minute, oh, a seat opened up for you kind of thing. And I was really looking into the clinical mental health psychology, like kind of degree,
mhm.
just because I've been like through therapy a lot and I want to like help people in that way. So that's like super funny.
Your
And I
north
also
node is
I
there.
do help people.
Your north node is there. I would pursue that. Like your north,
Yeah.
not like, so you're technically your north node like in your chart is in the second house, but the
Mm-hmm.
actual like alignment of the north node right now in the sky is in the eighth house. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that honestly, like I think you should listen to yourself on that and go for it, because it's what that's going to do, because you've already mastered that. What that's going to do is that's going to give you the confidence for the second house, like, you know, the second house, like it'll just naturally start to happen for you. The only thing I can give you an example, because I actually have this axis too. And so like what
Mm-hmm.
I realized was that my comfort zone was in like spiritual like pursuits, was in
Mm-hmm.
spiritual um, areas. But when I started my spiritual business back in 2018, 2017, the
Mm-hmm.
North Node is actually in my house of beliefs and like higher ideals. So I was like working with a mindset coach on like working on specifically my beliefs at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
like everything that like I would get from my business, I would put back into my business through that mindset. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was almost as if like there was just this like bigger calling within me to like do my own personal work first. And
Mm-hmm.
then now that the north node is in my like south node area as well, now like the whole like, you know, getting back into like doing stuff like astrology and like spirituality, because I took that time for myself and I like realigned how I believed about things. It was
Mm-hmm.
like now like all those things that I learned before, I didn't forget them. Now they're just like magnified and happening so easily,
That's
right?
great. Yeah.
And then it brings forth that like abundance.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me, like for you, is like a really good ideal. And I just kind of get this like sense that it would be for you something like you would literally be helping people take like what happened to them, you know, because you have that internal Scorpio like energy. And like I just kind of get that you would be helping like specifically people either remother themselves, you know, because like Venus to me always kind of like reminds me of like, you know, that mothering energy. I know
Mm-hmm.
people like in astrology, like your mother is the moon, but for you
Mm-hmm.
specifically, it would be like a self-love kind of aspect. You know what I mean? Like a self-love. Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
But
love
go
it.
ahead.
I love it. Yeah. So that to me, I think you should follow that. Like if that's how you're feeling, like I would definitely follow that up.
Yeah.
Um, So your third house, like the house of communications, and like, you know, for some people, if you have older siblings, you have Uranus and Neptune conjunct in this house in Capricorn. So to me, there's like this, for you, the way that you communicate, it's got this like really balanced energy of like, you say things that you mean and you mean what you say, but then at the same time it's aspected by Neptune. So like sometimes people reflect like their ideas of what you're saying onto what you're saying, and they're not actually like hearing you sometimes, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just like you, when you have like Uranus in this area, there's this like ahead of your time kind of way that you communicate, ahead of your time, how you like think, you know, on the fly, ahead of your time, like your conscious mind is like very ahead of its time. But then with Neptune there, what it does is it kind of creates this like this mist where other people have a hard time understanding you, because like your brain and like your conscious mind goes so fast that they literally can't keep up. I'll give you an example. So because like we have the same ascendant, and I have like a couple of planets in this house too, the same ones. And my friend was telling me that like, oh, you've been talking about this spiritual stuff since like 2012 April. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And she was like, yeah, you don't remember? And I was like, no, back then I was so ungrounded, you know, I was like really trying to find myself. I was like having a hard time with it. And she's like, no, you've been talking about this since 2012, and everyone used to think that you were crazy. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, like I knew I could understand you. Like I followed what you were saying, but like other people who like, you know, who couldn't understand what I was saying, like it was created like a fog. So people would hear me talking and I'd be like, you know, really kind of like intuitively saying what was like on my journey. But other people, when they like tried to like understand what I was saying, that Neptune like fog kind of kept them from really like understanding if they didn't have that like spiritual awareness already, because my mind was going 90 to nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting.
And then you actually have Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn transiting this house. So to me, this is like expansion. Like I just see like an atomic bomb when it comes to this, right? Like, you know, like Pluto is like, it just blows things up. Jupiter is expansion, and then Saturn is restriction. So I just like, you know, like E equals MC squared, like that's what comes to me when I see this. So that, and you're having it in your house of communication. So, and like your conscious mind. So you've probably like, what comes to me intuitively is like been feeling
I
like,
look weird as a blonde. Sorry, I had to like switch over.
oh yeah, no worries. I thought it looked cute.
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, my hair. I woke up like really late, so I'm just like really bugged.
Yeah, I thought it looked cute. I liked it.
Thanks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So, like, to me, what this is saying is that consciously, like, you're picking up your highest and best good with mixed in with the things that are holding you back and like what you need to transform. So it can feel like this almost like, where the F am I energy, you know, because you have like all three of those aspects coming through your conscious mind at one time, right? So like if you're journaling, like it would be like you're journaling like from three different perspectives, you know, like first like your like, you know, deepest wounds and like, you know, traumas come up, and then like your highest ideals and like what you could really do with it come up, and then like the reality of the situation comes up, you know what I mean? So this is a time for you to like ride on those things and be like, okay, like, you know, get them out on paper and kind of like mend them together in a way that like makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I need to journal more. It's been hard to do lately.
Well, especially with all that energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can feel like when you're journaling, from personal experience, like you're journaling and it's like the most haphazard thing ever. But like having that there and being able to reflect back is like the blessing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and like not calling yourself crazy, because you're not crazy. It's just the planetary alignments, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just literally like you're born for this time. Like we were all born for this time, but specifically with this placement, it's like you were born to have these kind of like, what comes to me is like you know how like back in the day, like Aristotle like would write all this stuff down, and he would write like as if he was talking to someone else.
Mhm.
And like that was effing weird, but that's now a book. You know what I mean? Like his
Right.
journals are like a book now. So
Yeah.
like everything that comes to you right now is like highly, highly relevant, like for the like, you know, like to come generations. And
Mhm.
like what just came to me intuitively, that is like kind of like that energy of like, oh, once like, you know, once our life is finished, and then when people go back and look at the things that we were, they're gonna be like, with this placement, like specifically people, if whoever choose to actually like record their thoughts, are going to be looked at as like so far ahead of their time.
Right. Interesting.
And then so you have Saturn in the 4th house, and your 4th house is all about like home security, and for you it's in the sign of Aquarius. So what this is saying to me is that there is this internal like almost like detachment from like security. Like this is like, I feel like people with this placement would be like great nomads, or would be people who are great like, you know, kind of like making a home anywhere, because like we are our home. But because
Yeah.
Saturn is here, there's like this, there's this really kind of like desire to like do it yourself, and to like
Mhm.
put your inspired action into it. And like it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. So having any kind of like you know, like reservation about like where you're like living, or reservation about like how you're going to live, you know, can kind of create this feeling of like conflict, really. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because like you're meant to like respond to your abilities. So like this could put you in a place where you're feeling like, okay, like not only are like you detached from like any place that you stay, but like when you're there, it's like in your mind you're like, but I can make a home anywhere. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And not only
Yeah.
like make a home anywhere, like you desire to like work hard at like building the foundation of your home. And then with this being like your ancestors, your roots, this could also put you in a place of like maybe having this sense of like almost like separation
Mhm.
those like from those people, from those places, from those things, that where you came from, to like truly find yourself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And to like really see like what you're made of.
Right. Yeah, I feel that. Just because I have been having a lot of feelings of like not necessarily want to like living here anymore. And I have been wanting to go tiny and kind of like do the more like nomadic lifestyle. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really funny that that came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Aquarius is all about like, Aquarius is like emotional detachment, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like humanitarian. So like to me, like what this says to me is like whoever came up with tiny homes probably had a placement similar to this, like in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like either had Uranus in their 4th house, you know, and it was like, because it's this knowing like humanitarian, right? Like the population is growing, you realize like, okay, like these big houses like may not work forever, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, going tiny and like, you know, kind of like cutting back on your material possessions, so that way
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, you can make room for the people to come, but also like, you know, clear out space and clear out the things in your life that don't actually matter and that aren't
Mm-hmm.
that great for the planet. Like that is that vibe. Like that is
Yeah,
the vibe of like this placement.
I feel
And
it.
yeah, and like having Saturn there is like you would be that person who would like work to actually get it done. You'd be like, okay, like, you know, like it would just feel like, so like you're about to have like your Saturn return. So it would just feel like as that's coming up, like you would just start working towards it more and more. And anything that was out of alignment with that, like, you know, intuitive nudge to you would be more and more painful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you have Neptune in your transiting your 5th house, because you already have like where is Neptune? So Neptune is in your 3rd house in your birth chart, but transits are like where the planets are now. So,
Okay.
and your 5th house is in Pisces. So having like a 5th house in Pisces is kind of like one of those things where when you're like your kids, right? Like your, if you were to have kids, if you were to have dogs, if you were to have like animals, like you have all your animals, all your animals. But
Yeah.
having Neptune transit this house it can kind of like put this feeling of like, when it comes to like your fun creativity, that there is like a haze there. Like maybe it's not like really making sense to you anymore. Or maybe if it is making sense to you, like you could be like overindulging, or you could be like, you know, maybe using this like area of your life as an escape versus like, you know, something that's constructive and helping you move forward. Because like the fifth house is all about like our fun, our vitality, our creativity, right? Like the sun rules this house. And for you, you actually have Neptune ruling this house with Pisces, right? So having like Neptune transiting takes that like to a whole nother level, right? But it also creates this like brilliant creativity. So it's almost as if like, yeah, things are like really hazy, and yeah, things, you know, can seem like you're overdoing it in this area, but like you could have a lot of really ingenious ideas, or you could create a lot of really great art during this time. So like you just started doing like resin work, right? Yeah. So that's that energy, you know what I mean? Like doing something like that. It's like using that's you using like this planetary placement like to the best of your abilities.
That's awesome. Yeah. I have had a little block in it lately, so I do feel that like haziness going on.
Yeah. And then, so you also have Chiron in this house too, like at the ending, it looks like. And Chiron is just kind of like a place, and that's like transiting. It's not actually in your chart, but it's just transiting right now. Chiron is just a place that kind of like, you know, it kind of like, I think personally, is like a little shadowy place that like we have to explore. And so for that to be in Aries in your fifth house, it kind of gives me the vibes of like, you know, when are you like overindulging to the point of like starting so many new creative tasks that like it stresses you out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I literally do like every single craft, and I have like so much like in my garage of like things to do, but like I don't do any of it. Just because like there's just like so much. I just feel so overwhelmed.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this would be like the this would be kind of like this energy of like, okay, like how can you like start the projects, and then at the same time like decide like start the maybe like shaving off, like I kind of just see it like kind of like slothing off, like, you know, the things that maybe like you thought you wanted to do, but maybe it was actually something in like this house of creativity that you actually started as an escape versus something that you wanted to do. And then like to me what's coming is that it would be like asking yourself like, what was I escaping in this, like, you know, maybe like creative pursuit that needs to actually be taken care of.
Okay. Yeah.
And then so, and you have Mars transiting your sixth house right now in Aries too. So the sixth house is all about like daily routines. It's about your schedule. It's about your service to the world, right? It's like what you do to serve, right? Any person who has like a planet transiting this house, it's all about like getting organized. It's all about having like, you know, creating, feeling passionate about like setting goals, and feeling passionate about creating routines that are going to propel you forward. And the word that comes through with this placement is like discipline, right? Like discipline. And I was actually doing like some like kind of like my own journaling before, and I was like breaking down the word because I really like to break down words and put them into like, you know, see what words are inside the words, because that's how like a lot of the hidden meanings are like, you know, created in like language. So like the word that came to me was like disc. And I don't know if you've ever seen like a pentacle card. Let me see if I can find one here. Perfect. So in like the tarot, the pentacles are like little discs, right? And like the thing intuitive that came to me was like, you know, like a circle is like completion, right? And discipline is supposed to like guide you to completion, right? It's supposed to be like a clear line, right? Because the word line is actually in discipline. It's supposed to be like a clear line to success, and something that you take to like make that happen, right? So discipline is the word that comes up here, right? So, and with it being retrograde for you and you having all these planets in your first house, it's like you're probably learning internally what is like keeping you from being disciplined, and what is like taking you away from that like place. And like, because you have all these like planets in your first house, like you're probably just on this roll of like, okay, cut it out, okay, cut it out, right? But
Yeah.
that like Neptune fog, that fifth house, could be where like your little Achilles heel lies, is kind of what's coming to me.
Okay. Yeah, I feel that. I was like, well, I sure hope she's not saying like that I am disciplined, because
Yeah, no, right?
I need to, yeah.
Yeah, more of like the idea of like the discipline is like sixth house is all about like discipline. You know what I mean? Sixth house is all about like you can't be of service without like having, you know, some kind of like regimen,
Mhm.
right? So discipline was just the word that came to mind because I had been doing all that like weird journaling about it before we got on our call, and it had absolutely
Mhm.
nothing to do with what we're talking about. I
That's
was like, it was
funny.
perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. So you have Uranus transiting your seventh house right now in Taurus. And Uranus is like the breaker of chains. Okay. So, and your seventh house is all about your relationships, your out in the open enemies, right? Um, it could be marriages, it could be like business relationships, it could be anything like that. So Uranus kind of goes somewhere and it creates this like, honestly, like Pluto is the planet of transformation, but Uranus is the planet of like quick and like big changes.
Mhm.
So it's like Uranus, when it transits your seventh house, like there could be like major changes going on in your relationships. It could be like your partner is like changing their appearance out of nowhere, you know, like and trying to do something different. Or it could be that like, you know, in that like relationship, like things are just changing and like
Mhm.
they're changing so quickly that it's like, whoa, like where did this come from, right? And what Uranus does is like Uranus, because it's the breaker of chains, right? What Uranus does is it kind of takes you out of your normal routine when it comes to relationships or whatever house that it's in. It takes you out of your comfort zone and you kind of start like, you know, like thinking about things differently and doing things differently. And it's your psychic like planet. So like when I had this transit, what I realized is that I was actually connecting with tons of people who I'd had like past life connections with. And so like I would meet someone and I'd be like, whoa, like this person, like I'm connected to them. Like it was like a past life connection. And it would be like a faded kind of meeting. And there would be like lessons that came with that connection, like through dreams or through my intuition, right? So, and because Uranus is a psychic planet, it's literally like whenever you meet people, they activate something psychically within you. You know what I mean? And your
Yeah.
psychic abilities like kind of like become supercharged around other people.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel that one.
Yeah,
I
right?
definitely had that with someone, and they're not in my life anymore, and it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like that like karmic, yeah, right? Like karmic ties being broken.
Yeah.
So now we're in your eighth house where you have your north node, and your north node is in Gemini, right? So that's what we were talking about before, like getting to that place. Like if you're wanting to go into that like psychological like work, into like that kind of study, perfect time to do it, because what the north node does is it like paves the path for you. It's basically like tying up loose ends and getting you to like focus in the area of life that to me is going to like bring you to your destiny, is how I look at it, right? Because technically your north node is in the second house, but because the north node right now is transiting your eighth house, it's kind of bringing you blessings in the place that you've already been, right? So like you
Mhm.
would receive blessings like to carry you along to your destiny, no matter where anyone's north node is, right? Like we're all kind of like receiving blessings in this Gemini area of our chart. Like I've had
Mhm.
one guy who his was like actually in the area of like relationships, and he was dating my friend. I was like, so he actually needs to like date you, and he needs to like have a really good time doing it because that's going to bring him blessings.
Aw.
Yeah,
That's
so for
funny.
you it's in this area of like sex, death, rebirth, anything taboo, anything occult, you know, like if you were to get into like, you know, maybe like ritual work right now, or if you were to like study up on like, you know, ancient cultures, anything like that, right, would
Mhm.
bring you blessings right now, and it would help you get to where you're at or where
So
you
you
need to
said
be.
sex and
Yeah.
That's funny.
Hey, I ain't lying. I'm just saying.
All right, it's confirmed.
Right?
It'll
And
be
it's
good for
Gemini
me.
energy, so like go hit the it's the Gemini, so like be social,
Yeah.
be gregarious,
Yes. Perfect.
have all the fun you want in that area. Okay, so your ninth house is in Cancer, and you have Mars there. And Mars is your chart ruler because Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, like Mars and Pluto. So there's this like heightened sense for you in this life and passion about like creating ideals. And I think this like honestly creates a beautiful aspect to your North Node and like having that Venusian like influence in your second house, right? Like your house of security and like values. That like your Mars being in this sign of Cancer, it can make you a little bit like kind of hardcore when it comes to your like your beliefs and everything. But Cancer is kind of like this energy, like this mothering energy, but with Mars there, it's also like a passionate kind of mothering energy. So it's like I kind of see you as like this like like a little bit reserved but feisty, right? Like when it comes to your ideals, when it comes to travel, like to me, like and this being the house of higher education and things like that, it's like you like I was talking about before, like mothering people, like you would passionately learn about like how to mother and like nurture people. So to me that's even more indicative of like that whole following your psychological intuitive instincts to go in that area right now. So that because it's your chart ruler, like you feel Mars in your chart even more. So like you have nothing but blessings when it comes to this like sixth house transit. Like I made a joke today on my Facebook and I was like, Mars in my sixth house literally has me like horny making plans and like horny like this planner is making me so wet right now.
That is so funny.
I was like,
I feel that though.
I was like, I said it. It's Mars retrograde. What do you want me to do? Like,
this is just how it is. This is me.
It's just how I feel, right? Because it's that energy. So for you, like, taking that energy, like with that, discipline or whatever, like you're more than like guided and led there. Let's see. So your 10th house is how people see you, and your midheaven is in Leo. So to me, this is saying like, like when the way that you want people to see you is like regal, right? Like you want them to see like you perfected, but not only perfected, but like, out and about. And like, it's very flashy. It's very like, this is who I am. It's very much like, take it or leave it kind of vibe, right? But internally, like, you're secretly wanting the validation for all of the hard work that you put into how you present yourself to people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you have Venus in this house right now. And like Venus in this house is like blessing, blessing, blessing on your career. Blessing, blessing, blessing. Because Venus is like, giving you like blessings. So like people see you right now as very attractive. People see you right now like as this like, as this regal person. Like Venus is like giving you that energy, but also kind of like the self-love that you need. So I would be paying attention to, because like during this time, like you may be feeling like less self-conscious when you're out relating to other people, or like when you're out in the public, right? So taking that like taking that conscious like awareness of like we were talking about with your third house, of how you feel around people, and like really expounding upon it with Jupiter and your conscious like mind right now, really expounding upon it and like channeling that loving energy of like how you're talking to yourself, how you're relating to people, how you feel around people right now. So that way when that Venus leaves that area, because it's about to like line up with your like birth chart Chiron. And like the birth chart Chiron is like saying that, okay, like, something about our public image, like as a child, like really like, kind of did a number on us, So having like, Venus is about to like kind of bring you blessings, and like what I feel is like a healing in that area, right? Or the opportunity to heal that area. So if you're feeling a lot better about yourself and like you start to realize that those things that used to bother you don't bother you anymore, like expound that energy, right? Like expound upon like, okay, well, like how am I thinking now that I feel this way around people, right? Like what are my thoughts about it? Like how am I like feeling in that situation that maybe I didn't feel before? And like the thing that comes to me is like milking it, you know, like milking that energy, you know, like saying, creating like affirmations based off of it. So that way, like, you know, when Venus goes into that Chiron placement in your chart, there's this like honey, right? Like in this like sweetness and this warmth that you've built up in that area to kind of like soothe that wound and to kind of like, you know, give you the space and like the energy to like alchemize that.
Okay.
And then, so 11th house, for the 11th house, you have Virgo. So you have Virgo in your 11th house right now. And Jupiter is actually in your 11th house, like the end of it is in Libra right now. Or no, not right now, when you were born. Jupiter was in Libra, but in your 11th house. And then you have the sun in Virgo right now in your 11th house. So this is the time to like be out and about. Hey! This is the time to be out and about. This is the time to have that like time, like where you're social networking, like where you're, you know, where you're doing all these things that are benefiting you, because like your sun is your vital energy. So it's like you're gonna get the most energy and like life force energy being in this like almost because Virgo to me is like what's a good word for Virgo? When I think of Virgo, I think of like someone who just wants to like heal everyone, you know, like wants everything to be perfect. And people can see that as like a critical energy, but I kind of see it as like a just like deeply desiring for people to like live their best life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like having like that, like, you know, when you're when you're with people, having that energy of like, oh, you know, like it would just be like having that energy, like when you're around people, you would want to be hanging around people who are not only like living their best life, but also, you know, like have like morals is like the word that comes because you have Jupiter in Libra, which is all about like fairness and like honesty and like, you know, balance. So you'd be wanting to like be around those kind of people right now, and you'd be getting a lot of energy from those interactions.
Yeah.
And then having Mercury in your 12th house right now in Libra is kind of like putting you in this place of like, okay, kind of like this to me, what this says is like communication, like with yourself, like with your spirit guides, like with your psychic abilities, right? So like you may be feeling highly intuitive, even more so right now. And like almost like hearing like, you know, like the voice of the like people on the other side who are guiding you, right? And like having that communication like even more, right? And it may be kind of like secluding you a little bit from other people. So it's like kind of like, you know, like I said, sun in the 12th house, you definitely want your you time by yourself, but then also having the like having that like, you know, sun in your 11th house and wanting to be around people, it's just be like balancing that, you know what I mean?
Okay.
That's kind of how I see it, is just really balancing that. So yeah, that's about it. How do you like it?
Great. That was awesome.
Yay.
A lot of stuff for me to think about and kind of like reaffirm and stuff to work on.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right.
Yeah,
well,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, just tell your friends about it.
Yeah, I will for sure. And I'll share this video too.